Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to talk about a very ultimate topic: death. Why do we, or living beings, have to die? What does death really mean to us? Many very smart people throughout history have pondered this question. So many thinkers, philosophers, and religions have offered their explanations. But from a scientific perspective, what does death really mean? That's what we're going to discuss today. From a scientific standpoint, death actually has a very important meaning. That's why we gave up immortality. Yes, I said gave up. That's right, we used to be immortal. Is this science? First, we need to understand what determines our lifespan. Listen carefully. The first thing is called telomeres. Telomeres are located at the ends of chromosomes. They determine the number of times a cell can divide. So, what's the relationship between chromosomes and DNA? DNA, genes, and chromosomes, what are these things? Let me give you a simple example to help you understand. DNA is a substance like a piece of paper. On this paper, there are many words written. These words describe what we look like. These words are the genes. Many such pieces of paper come together to form a book. This book is the chromosome. In the human body, there are 23 pairs of chromosomes, which means 46 books. But these 46 books are actually in pairs. For females, the pairs are the same, so there are 23 pairs. For males, there are also 23 pairs, but the last pair is different. This pair determines whether we are male. So, each person has two sets of 23 books. The content of these 23 books determines what we look like from head to toe. Now, in these books, the first few pages and the last few pages are blank. These blank pages are the telomeres. When a cell divides, it copies these 46 books to form a new cell. But during the copying process, the first and last blank pages are torn off. So, as the cell keeps dividing, the blank pages become fewer and fewer. Eventually, there are no more blank pages, and only the pages with text remain. At this point, the cell can no longer divide, and the human body begins to age. In other words, your lifespan is determined by the length of your telomeres. And the length of your telomeres is determined at birth. The number of blank pages determines how many times your cells can divide. So, if you get a cut on your body, it will heal. If you get another cut, it will heal again. But this healing isn't infinite, there's a limit, about 50 times. This was discovered in an experiment by the University of California in 1961. So, one of our current research directions is how to extend telomeres or prevent them from shortening. In theory, this could lead to immortality. Of course, there are other methods for achieving immortality, which we'll discuss in the future. This is physical immortality. But from the design of telomeres, you can sense that whoever created life, whether it's a god or something else, didn't intend for us to be immortal. Why did they do this? I'll explain later. Besides telomeres, there's another thing that affects our lifespan: DNA errors and mutations. DNA can mutate for various reasons, such as exposure to radiation. Once DNA is damaged, the cell will quickly deteriorate, and its lifespan will be shortened. These are the two genetic factors that affect our lifespan. There's another factor that affects our lifespan: the speed of aging. Although telomeres limit the number of times our cells can divide, if our cells don't divide or divide very slowly, in a sense, this could extend our lifespan or even make us immortal. For example, if we can only divide 50 times, but we divide once every million years, then we'd have a very long lifespan, right? In reality, our cells divide about once every 2 years, so we don't live past 100 years. What determines the speed of cell division? The thing that controls the speed of cell division is called metabolism. Metabolism refers to the process of converting food into nutrients and then burning these nutrients through respiration to produce energy, which sustains our life activities. This metabolic process damages our cells, requiring new cells to be produced through division. This accelerates aging and leads to death. So, in theory, people with slower metabolisms live longer, while those with faster metabolisms age faster and have shorter lifespans. Let me give you a clear example. In 2020, the countries with the highest average lifespans were Japan, with women living an average of 86.9 years, almost 87, and men living 81.5 years. South Korea came in second, with women living 86.4 years and men living 81.8 years. Switzerland was third, with women living 86 years and men living 80 years. Singapore was fourth, with women living 85.5 years and men living 81 years. On the other hand, the countries with the shortest lifespans were the Central African Republic, with women living 56 years old and men living 50 years old. Somalia, with women living 59 years old and men living 56 years old. Whether in countries with long or short lifespans, women generally live longer than men. Why is that? Because women have a lower basal metabolic rate than men. A 30-year-old woman has a basal metabolic rate of about 1,150 kilocalories per day, while a man needs about 1,530 kilocalories. So, although men are stronger and faster, it comes at the cost of burning through their lives faster. This phenomenon isn't just seen in humans, it applies to all animals. The speed of metabolism directly affects lifespan. For example, small dogs tend to live longer than large dogs because their metabolic rates are lower. But some might wonder, elephants are much larger than mice, and elephants can live 60 to 70 years, while mice only live 2 to 3 years. Doesn't that mean elephants have a higher metabolism? Why do they live longer? Actually, when comparing different species, you can't just look at size. Instead, you should look at heart rate. The faster the heart rate, the faster the metabolism. For example, a mouse's heart beats about 600 times per minute, while an elephant's heart beats only 20 times per minute. That's 30 times faster, so a mouse's lifespan is about 1/30th of an elephant's. This isn't just true for elephants and mice. Almost all mammals follow this rule. For example, the smallest mammal in the world, the shrew, has an average heart rate of 835 beats per minute, with a maximum of 1,200 beats per minute. That's 20 beats per second. Its lifespan is only about a year. On the other hand, the largest mammal, the blue whale, has a heart rate of 8 to 13 beats per minute, and the oldest recorded blue whale lived to be 116 years old. Of course, blue whales aren't the slowest. Some turtles and sharks have even slower heart rates. There's a species called the bowhead whale, which has a slower heart rate than the blue whale and can live over 200 years. So, can we calculate lifespan based on heart rate? About 100 years ago, American and German biologists discovered this phenomenon and began studying the relationship between heart rate and lifespan across species. They found something incredible. Most mammals or warm-blooded animals have roughly the same number of heart beats in their lifetime, about 1 billion. So, a mouse with a heart rate of 600 beats per minute would only live about 3 years, which is correct. An elephant with a heart rate of 20 beats per minute would live 60 to 70 years, which is also correct. Later, some scholars thought the sample size might be too small, so they expanded the study, and it's still ongoing today. Most animals fall within the range of 800 million to 1.2 billion heartbeats, with a few exceptions below 800 million or above 1.2 billion. So, for mammals, a faster heart rate means a shorter lifespan. But there's one extreme exception: humans. The average human heart rate is about 75 beats per minute or 40 million beats per year. If we follow the 1 billion heartbeats rule, humans should die at 25 years old. But we live to 70 to 80 years, meaning our hearts can beat about 3 billion times in a lifetime. This makes the human heart the strongest in the animal kingdom. No other animal has been found to have a heart as strong as ours. In this regard, we're very different from our close relatives like gorillas. Gorillas are slightly better, with 1.3 to 1.5 billion heartbeats in their lifetime, but they still fall within the typical range. Humans, on the other hand, are far outside this range. So, why is the human heart so strong? Some speculate that it's because of our good living conditions and advanced medical care, which help maintain our hearts. Indeed, the countries with the longest lifespans we mentioned earlier, Japan, Switzerland, and Singapore, are all high GDP countries. But this isn't the reason why humans have more heartbeats than other species. Even pets like dogs, which have lived with humans for a long time, don't live longer despite good living conditions. For example, a poodle has a heart rate of about 100 beats per minute and only lives about 10 to 15 years, totaling about 800 million heartbeats, which fits the rule. So, even with good living conditions, their lifespans aren't extended. Therefore, the number of heartbeats in humans doesn't seem to be directly related to our environment. Some also suspect that it's because humans have exceptional physical endurance. We've mentioned before that humans are the most physically enduring animals. But this isn't the reason either. The second most physically enduring animal is the horse, which has a heart rate of about 35 beats per minute, but only lives about 30 years. Based on this, a horse's heart only beats about 600 million times in its lifetime, making it a relatively short-lived animal. So, physical endurance isn't the reason either. To this day, why the human heart is so strong remains a mystery. The simplest explanation might be that the Anunnaki changed something, making our hearts so powerful. Even though the human heart is incredibly strong, within the human species, the rule still applies. The faster the heart are. 8. The shorter the lifespan. In fact, not just the heart, most of our organs have a limited number of uses. If overused, they will fail. But don't we need to exercise more? Yes, exercise is important, but the saying, "life lies in movement," is quite one-sided. While exercise can make us feel refreshed, this feeling comes at the cost of burning through our lives. Moderate exercise is key. Keeping your heart rate from getting too high is crucial. So, another important thing is to avoid getting angry, stressed, or emotional. Even seeing a beautiful person shouldn't make your heart race. If you can do this, you might achieve immortality. Actually, when your heart rate drops to 0, you'll truly be immortal. So, death and immortality are equal in a way. This might explain why scientists tend to live longer. No wonder I wanted to be a scientist when I was a kid. But athletes have slow heart rates, right? Through exercise, you can strengthen your heart, making it beat slower in the future. But the damage has already been done from previous exercise. You can't exercise intensely all the time. This doesn't mean athletes have shorter lifespans, but mental workers definitely live longer. So, try to engage in more philosophical thinking. When your heart rate slows down, your lifespan will increase. So, the length of your life depends on the expiration date of your heart. Don't let it get overstimulated. Even enjoyment isn't allowed. The goal is to make your heart beat slower and slower, ideally not at all. Now that we've covered the process of death in humans and other living beings, let's get to the key question. Why do living beings have to die? In fact, the earliest life forms on Earth were immortal. Life on Earth began with a self-replicating ribozyme, which evolved into the earliest prokaryotes. Prokaryotes are very ancient bacteria that still exist today, such as cyanobacteria and E. coli. These organisms don't age or die. They reproduce through cloning, creating exact copies of themselves. They are always in their prime and never grow old. However, they can still die. When there's too much competition for resources, they starve. When the environment is polluted, they're poisoned. When predators appear, they're eaten. These ancient bacteria are particularly vulnerable to something called bacteriophages, which are ancient viruses that infect and kill bacteria. Additionally, when the environment changes drastically, they can freeze to death or die from heat. The biggest issue is that because they reproduce through cloning, all individuals are identical, so they share the same weaknesses. If environmental changes target these weaknesses, the entire population can be wiped out. Extending this idea, if there are gods or aliens who are immortal and reproduce through cloning, they would also have the same weaknesses. If we can find these weaknesses, we could defeat them. This might be why gods and aliens haven't revealed themselves to us. They're afraid we'll discover their vulnerabilities. We'll discuss how to quickly identify the weaknesses and dangers of aliens in a future video. Since these immortal organisms are so fragile and prone to mass extinction, after they ruled the Earth for nearly 2 billion years, a more advanced life form emerged, eukaryotes. Eukaryotes are the ancestors of multicellular organisms, including humans, fish, amphibians, reptiles, and mammals. It was with the emergence of eukaryotes that life first developed gender and lifespan. Gender and lifespan appeared simultaneously. What's the purpose of these two things? First, let's talk about gender. Once gender emerged, the way organisms reproduce changed. Instead of cloning, reproduction now required two genders of the same species to produce offspring. This process became more complex, but it had one major advantage. It allowed offspring to be different from their parents. So we don't look exactly like our parents. With cloning, everyone would be the same, but with sexual reproduction, every offspring is unique. Why are we different from our ancestors? Because when two individuals of different genders combine, their genes are shuffled, creating unique combinations. Since each individual is unique, their weaknesses are also unique, preventing mass extinction. In short, gender is a mechanism to avoid extinction. But if gender solves the problem of mass extinction, why do we also have lifespan? There's another way mass extinction can occur, through DNA damage or genetic mutations. We know that radiation and cosmic rays can damage our DNA. If a genetic error occurs, it can be passed down to future generations. If this error is passed down and the offspring mate with their ancestors, the error will be present in all subsequent generations. Over time, these errors accumulate, becoming more severe, and eventually leading to the extinction of the species. To prevent this accumulation of genetic errors, a mechanism is needed to ensure that offspring don't mate with their ancestors. Many animals achieve this by expelling their young once they reach adulthood, preventing them from mating with their parents. However, this mechanism isn't foolproof. For example, a son might be expelled, but he could still mate with his granddaughter. To prevent this, lifespan was introduced. If the ancestors die, the offspring can't mate with them, ensuring genetic errors aren't passed down. So, from a biological perspective, death has a very positive meaning. It's a radical mechanism to protect DNA. By allowing individual organisms to die, the species as a whole is preserved. Therefore, organisms with the ability to die are typically more advanced. In a way, death might be a superpower we gain through evolution. You could say that without the death of our ancestors, we wouldn't exist in our healthy state today. So, death is actually a choice. We choose to let our ancestors die so that we can be healthier, and our descendants will choose to let us die so that they can be healthier. From a macro perspective, all living beings, including humans, seem to be part of one large organism. By allowing some individuals to die, the overall health of the species is maintained. So, it's possible that we're all part of a giant life form. Right now, we see ourselves as separate individuals, but in reality, we're all connected. It's like the cells in our body. One cell might not see its connection to another, but they're both part of the same organism. Sometimes, old cells die to make way for new ones, ensuring the health of the body. After hearing all this, do you feel more at ease with the concept of death?